Once upon a time there lived a man whose one wish and prayer was to get rich. Day and night he thought of nothing else, and at last his prayers were granted, and he became very wealthy. Now, being so rich and having so much to live for, he felt that it would be a terrible thing to die and to leave his possessions behind. So he made up his mind to set out in search of a land in which there was no death. He got ready for his journey, took leave of his wife, and started out. Whenever he came to a new country, the first question he asked the people was whether people died in that land, and at each place he was told that they did. At last he reached a country where he was told that people did not even know the meaning of death. Our traveler was delighted when he heard this, and he said, "But surely there must be great numbers of people in your land if no one ever dies." "No, there are not great numbers. For you see, from time to time a voice is heard calling first one, then another, and whoever hears that voice just gets up, goes away, and doesn't come back." "Do they see the person who calls them? Or do they just hear a voice?" "Well, they both see and hear him," was the answer. Well, this man was amazed when he heard that people were stupid enough to follow a voice, though they knew that if they went, if it called them, they would never come back. He went back to his old home, and he got all his possessions together. Taking his wife and family, he set out, resolved to go and live in that country where the people did not die, but where instead they heard a voice calling them, and whenever this voice called him, he had no plans to go, no matter how loudly it called. After he settled down in his new home and had everything in order, he warned his wife and family that unless they wanted to die, they had better not follow a voice when it called them. For some years everything went quite well, and they lived happily in their new home. But one day, when they were all sitting together around the table, his wife suddenly started and said in a loud voice, "I'm coming! I'm coming!" And she began to look around the room for her coat. Her husband jumped up, and taking hold of her, he held her fast, and he reproached her, and he said, "Don't you remember what I told you? Stay where you are, unless you wish to die." "Don't you hear the voice? It's calling me," she said. "I am merely going to go see why I'm wanted. I'll be back." But he would not let her go, and he had all the doors of the house shut and locked. When she saw that he had done this, she said, "Very well, dear husband, I will do what you wish, and I will remain where I am." So her husband believed it was all right, and that she had thought better of it, and that she had gotten over her crazy impulse to go obey some strange voice. But a few minutes later, she made a dash for one of the doors, opened it, and ran out, followed by her husband. He caught her by her coat, and he begged and pleaded for her not to go, for she would not return if she went. She said nothing. She let her arms fall backwards and slipped out of her coat, leaving it in her husband's hands. He seemed to turn to stone as he gazed after her, hurrying away from him as quickly as she could, and calling at the top of her voice, "I'm coming, I'm coming." When she was quite out of sight, her husband recovered his wits and went back to his house. He murmured to himself, "Well, if she's so foolish that she wishes to die, I can't help it. I warned her, I begged her, but she had to listen to it, not me." Well, days and weeks and months and years passed, and nothing happened to disturb the peace of the household. But one day the man was at the barber's getting a shave. The shop was full of people. His chin had just been covered with a lather of soap, and suddenly, starting up from the chair, he called out in a loud voice, "I won't come! Do you hear me? I won't come!" The barber and the other people in the shop stopped. They stared at him in amazement, but again looking towards the door, he shouted, I tell you, go away! Go away! I'm not going to come!" A few minutes later he called out again, "Go away, or it'll be the worse for you. You can call as much as you like. You're never going to get me to come." He got so angry that you might have thought someone was actually standing at the door motioning to him and tormenting him. At last he jumped up. He caught the razor out of the barber's hand, and he exclaimed, "Give me that razor. I'll teach him to leave people alone." He rushed out of the house as if he were running after someone, but no one else could see anyone. The barber, determined not to lose his razor, pursued the man, and they both ran at full speed till they were well out of town. All of a sudden the man fell head first down a precipice, and he was never seen again. So he too, like the others, had been forced against his will to follow the voice that called him. The barber, who went home whistling and congratulating himself on his close escape, described what had happened, and it was noised abroad in the country that people who had gone away and had never returned, they had fallen into that pit, for till then they had never known what happened to the people who heard the voice. But when crowds of people went out from the town to examine this ill-fated pit that had swallowed up such numbers of people, and yet never seemed to be full, they couldn't discover anything. All they could see was a vast plain. It looked as if it had been there since the beginning of the world. And from that time on, the people began to die like ordinary mortals all over the world.